In Matthew 27 we read, "The soldiers were going out of the city with Jesus. They saw a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry Jesus' cross. They came to the place called Golgotha, and Golgotha means the place of the skull. There the soldiers gave Jesus some wine mixed with gall, but when he tasted it, he refused to drink it." The soldiers nailed Jesus to a cross. Then they threw dice to divide his clothes between them. The soldiers stayed there to guard him. They put a sign above his head with the charge against him written on it, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." There are certain sounds, I believe, that stick with us. Certain things we hear in maybe a time of celebration or a time of stress or difficulty. And those sounds are remembered. We have them stored in our minds, and we can replay them and hear them as if it were happening just now. I can think of certain sounds that have stuck with me over the years, and one of those is the sound of artillery. And the sound of that artillery landing a distance away had a distinctive sound. I remember the sound of my second son being born, his crying. Because when he was born, he wasn't breathing, and so as soon as I heard him cry, I knew everything was okay. It was a glorious cry. I remember when I was much younger and I was driving in the car with the windows open, and I passed a man walking on the side of the street, and the car behind me hit him. And I heard the impact of that car with this man's body, and it killed him. Those are sounds that I doubt that I will ever forget. And I think about the disciples. As we hear in the Gospel of Matthew that Jesus is nailed to a cross, as we remember that on this Good Friday, most of the disciples, all except John, didn't accompany Jesus. They were at a distance. They probably didn't see everything that was happening. But I bet there was something they could hear. The sound of Jesus being nailed to the cross. The sound of death. The sound of hopelessness, at least as far as they were concerned at that moment. The sound of the end. The end of everything that they had planned and expected. The end of Jesus. I imagine that sound rang in their ears. And I'm sure that that sound stayed fresh in their minds late into Friday and Saturday and Sunday, even as they went and saw the tomb after the women said that it was empty. I'm sure they still could hear that ringing, resonating. But we know that the sound of iron on iron that was intended to kill, to destroy, to remove Jesus was not the last sound that would be heard in regard to the Son of God. 3 days later, there was the sound of a stone being rolled away from the tomb. Hearing that sound of Jesus being crucified probably stayed with those disciples the rest of their lives. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and not bad for us to hear that sound and remember the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. That sound can remind us of the price that Jesus paid that we might have life and life always. Jesus was nailed to the cross, and took with him our sin and removed that from us. He has taken away death, that even though we die, yet shall we live. On this Good Friday, may we look at the cross, hear that sound, and remember all that Jesus has done for us.